Doris Kearns Goodwin, Leadership in Turbulent Times. Prepare to embark on a fascinating journey through the lives of 4 transformational U.S. presidents: Abraham Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Lyndon B. Johnson. In Doris Kearns Goodwin's absorbing book Leadership in Turbulent Times, you'll learn how these leaders emerged from divergent backgrounds to ultimately shape the course of history. This summary uncovers the complex interplay of personal attributes, ambition, and adversity that influenced their leadership. By overcoming obstacles and forging their own paths, these monumental figures demonstrate that greatness is not a product of circumstance but rather a reflection of resilience, adaptability, and unwavering determination.
Leadership Beyond Circumstances. The book explores how the circumstances of great leaders differ, referencing Lincoln and Roosevelt as examples. It highlights that the keys to great leadership are not defined by one's background. Leadership is a complicated topic, and the notion that leaders are shaped by their circumstances is particularly intriguing. However, a thorough examination of Lincoln and Roosevelt's lives suggests otherwise. Despite being born with a trust fund and receiving a formal education, Roosevelt's climb to power was much easier than Lincoln's self-made journey. Lincoln had to educate himself, borrowing books, and reading them without external support, despite the occasional resistance and destruction of these books by his father. When Roosevelt reached adulthood, he was already politically connected, recruited by the local Republican Party to run for the State Assembly of New York. The divergent experiences of these 2 presidents reveal that the keys to great leadership must lie beyond their circumstances. It takes more than a wealthy background, access to an extensive family library, or political entitlement to become a great leader. It takes perseverance, determination, and hard work to gain respect, to have one's merits recognized, and to build relationships with others. So, while Lincoln was born in poverty, and Roosevelt to a life of luxury, both of them share the same traits of great leaders. The question now is how we can recognize and develop these vital characteristics to succeed as leaders, no matter our circumstances. Personal characteristics of great leaders. Personal characteristics do not hold the key to becoming a great leader, according to influential presidents such as Franklin Roosevelt and Lincoln. They had vastly different temperaments, physical traits, and mental characteristics that shaped their leadership style. For instance, Roosevelt grew up in a warm and nurturing environment that gave him an optimistic outlook on life. Lincoln, on the other hand, struggled with melancholy and feeling at odds with his lofty ambitions and lowly circumstances. In terms of physical traits, Lincoln was tall, strong, and athletic, while Theodore Roosevelt was plagued by frequent illness and asthma. Lastly, while Lincoln had to put a considerable amount of effort into memorizing things, Theodore Roosevelt had a photographic memory. Therefore, rather than relying on personal characteristics, these influential leaders suggest that we should look elsewhere to become great leaders. Strengths and weaknesses of transformational presidents. Great leaders are often portrayed as larger-than-life figures with almost superhuman strength. However, a closer look at the transformational presidents clarifies that they were undoubtedly gifted, but they were also human, with remarkable strengths and weaknesses. Abraham Lincoln learned through patient observation and waited on the sidelines to observe before getting involved. Contrastingly, Theodore Roosevelt had a gung-ho approach and aggressively interrogated his colleagues about how the assembly worked, often violating procedural rules. Franklin Roosevelt had the flexibility of bypassing regulations if he felt it justified the outcome. Lyndon B. Johnson was masterful at using cunning procedural tactics in Congress but also used them to conceal escalating defense costs incurred in ramping up the Vietnam War. Transformational presidents' strengths were varied, much like their circumstances and personal characteristics. Their strengths also had a double-edged nature that could turn into weaknesses. Ambition and leadership. Ambition is a crucial trait for effective leadership, as demonstrated by the contrasting paths of Abraham Lincoln and Theodore Roosevelt. Despite Lincoln's impoverished background, his ambition allowed him to overcome challenges and pursue education and law. In contrast, Roosevelt's privileged upbringing could have stifled his ambition, but instead, his physical limitations sparked a thirst for adventure that drove him to explore and lead. These examples show how ambition can drive individuals to achieve greatness despite adversity, and is a necessary trait for successful leadership. Leadership Lessons from LBJ. The book highlights how Lyndon B. Johnson's successes and failures as a president were largely influenced by a sense of greater national purpose. Johnson's strength in clever procedural tactics led to his promotion of civil rights, the creation of Medicare, and the Voting Rights Act. However, his escalation of the Vietnam War highlighted his lack of higher purpose, leading to disastrous consequences. The importance of a sense of greater national purpose is a crucial element in the transformational president's ascendance to leadership. The uncertainty of leadership. The path to leadership is full of uncertainties and setbacks. This is exemplified by the stories of transformative presidents like Franklin Roosevelt, who had his political ambitions derailed by polio, and Lincoln, who suffered a devastating blow to his reputation. Even the likes of Theodore Roosevelt and Johnson experienced periods of severe depression. These leaders show us that despite our best-laid plans, life can throw unexpected curveballs that may test our leadership. A Road to Greatness. The book explains that for all four presidents, retreating from politics after facing setbacks was crucial to their journey to leadership. During this period, they reflected and rebuilt themselves, and emerged stronger. Lincoln became an outstanding orator while practicing as a lawyer. Johnson spent 6 months reconnecting with his political values and emerged with a renewed sense of purpose, which led him to champion progressive proposals. Roosevelt spent 7 years regaining his physical strength, but his disease limited his recovery. To circumvent the limits, he formed a small team of confidants who acted as his surrogates for public events, speeches, and keeping his reputation alive politically. The team proved crucial to his success later when he became the governor of New York and President of the United States. The power of a supportive team. The success of transformative U.S. presidents like Lincoln shows the importance of a strong and diverse team in times of crisis. A president can't do everything alone, and a team with different perspectives can lead to better decisions. Lincoln derived his strength from his team, which included his main former rivals, and together, they helped him steer the country's course through the gravest national crisis in the U.S. history. The team gave him different opinions on the Emancipation Proclamation, but ultimately, Lincoln took a cautious middle course, waiting for a significant victory against the South before issuing the proclamation. It was Lincoln's ability to lead with the help of his capable team that led to the success of his presidency. Transformative Leaders. The book discusses how transformative U.S. presidents faced and grew from personal crises and overcame national crises with a spirit of experimentation and innovation. Franklin Roosevelt's polio and subsequent rehabilitation helped him face the Great Depression with a similar mindset. He experimented with bold programs and innovative governmental agencies to improve the economy and spirits of the nation. The book highlights how personal growth can lead to effective leadership in times of crisis.
In conclusion, Leadership in Turbulent Times recounts the diverse journeys of transformational presidents who rose to power despite the differences in their origin stories, personal characteristics, and obstacles. Each leader faced a national crisis and harnessed their unique strengths and ambition to work effectively with their respective teams. Ambition, adaptability, and a sense of national purpose anchored their leadership styles and solidified their places in history. From this inspiring account of perseverance and growth, we learn that the path to greatness is not defined by one's background but rather by one's unwavering resilience and commitment to overcoming adversity and shaping the course of the nation.